The Deck of Many Things. Legendary magic item in Dungeons & Dragons. It's got wonder and chance and chaos and destruction. Players beg to use it. DMs decline or defer, don't want it in their campaign. Still, it's just so cool. What is it? Well, we're going to do a live unboxing of the official D&D box set of the Deck of Many Things and the Book of Many Things and get into it a little bit. Thanks for joining. I'm Chris. Welcome to the Art of Character Dungeons & Dragons podcast, where we explore all things D&D, focusing on the heart of the matter, the characters. Let's roll. So the Deck of Many Things, what is it? It goes way back to some of the original roots of Dungeons & Dragons in the original content, really even before the first edition. So 1975 or 76, it appeared in the Greyhawk supplement, and so the Deck of Many Things then included 18 cards. You would use regular playing cards, and it kind of listed it as a magic item and listed rules associated with it. We're not going to get into all those rules right now, but that's as far back as it went. 1979, it was in the first edition, Dungeons & Dragons, the DM's Guide back then. And so that was, again, based on a deck of cards, and you pulled out certain cards and just used 22 cards. That was kind of the standard deck. And there was a chance whether it would be kind of 22, I think, was the higher number, and there could be a lower number of cards also. I want to say 13, but I could be wrong on that. I'll circle back. So 1989, it appeared in Dragon magazine, and there were some physical cards that you could kind of cut out or use from that also. In 2025, WotC released the official 5th edition version of Deck of Many Things with the Book of Many Things. So there were 22 cards that they have definitely restylized a little bit, and then also an additional 44 extra cards. A total of 66 cards you could use with sort of a core rule book that goes with the cards, and then an expanded book called the Book of Many Things. It includes all these ideas for adventure hooks and dungeons and all that sort of thing. The basics of how the Deck of Many Things worked back in the day is it would appear as a magic item, and the DM, you would kind of determine how many cards were in there. You would roll, in first edition, you would roll dice to determine on a percentage chance about how many cards would be in there. And then players would have this, and they declare how many cards they were going to draw. And then they would have to draw these cards one at a time, and then whatever the result was, it could be positive or could be negative. About half were positive, half were negative. And then, after the results of the first card were done, they would have to draw the second card, the third card, however many cards they declared that they were going to draw. If you didn't follow through, let's say something terrible happens and you don't follow through and draw all the cards from the Deck of Many Things, all of the cards are supposed to burst forward from the deck, and all of their effects apply all at once. So complete tragedy, chaos, etc. So we're going to get into it a little bit. We'll go through a live unboxing. I'll talk a little bit about some of the ways you can use the deck and some of the ways the new material kind of opens up your world of D&D for using this to build your campaigns. All right, thanks for joining. All right, so here is the Deck of Many Things, right? So this is one of the, this item has so much lore. Way back in the 80s when I was playing Dungeons & Dragons, I used to hear about the Deck of Many Things, and could we use the Deck of Many Things? Players beg to use it. Oh, that sounds so amazing. You draw a card and you get magic items or level ups or maybe some negative things. So cool, right? Let's do it. DMs, though, you see, we've got a story generally that we're trying to tell, an adventure. Lots of times there's a timeline. You can't just, not every DM is completely willing to throw the campaign completely off the rails and completely off the tracks. A lot of the items in the Deck of Many Things aren't exactly going to do that. But there are some items in there that are potentially game-breaking, and not entirely game-breaking, but campaign-breaking. You really don't want to give it to super low-level characters, I would argue, just because it's just going to throw so much chaos and potential really quick level ups. It's going to overpower them, or just things that they're not going to be able to combat in battle. So better for some higher level characters. However, as long as your campaign isn't really on rails, isn't really time sensitive, and if the character's pulling a card that is going to absolutely throw them completely, off track or completely derail the adventure, unless that is something that's going to happen and you need to keep things a little bit more time sensitive and the characters are a little bit higher level, I would consider it. So anyway, with that intro, let's go ahead and unwrap it. Let's get into it. Here we go. So I'll get the shrink wrap off of here. I do appreciate that they did this. It's still not perfect, as you'll see. There's a couple little dings. Look, I ordered, and I ordered this myself. I paid full price. I am not sponsored by anyone. Nobody pays for any of my Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And I don't earn any money from this stuff at this point. Not from you, not from anybody else. So here's what we have. Some of the artwork. The artwork is just beautiful on this. I know they spent a lot of time, kind of when they were first coming up with it. There were some problems with the initial printings, with the initial cards. That is just amazing, beautiful artwork, I say. Here's your sides. This is what you're going to get. This is a complaint that a lot of people had. Like, why not just make it a box that you can just open? But you do have to do this. You do have to pop this tab up here. A lot of people don't like this. You know what? Some of the ones I've seen online, that's a little bit cleaner. Not super mad at that, but as you can see down there, just a little bit there. So this is what you wind up with. And this is what you get. So just some cardboard pieces. Toss those aside. So anyway, you've got this, the box. And then you've got the book. And then you've got the cards. We're going to go ahead and do the cards first. So this is the box set. That is pretty cool. That is, again, a beautiful design. I love cards. I love card games. I don't play Magic. I know a lot of people that do, but I appreciate, wow, this, I would say it keeps getting better. I like this design too. That is, it's got a little, you can't really see it on the camera, but this has got it's a little bit of reflection right here that's, it's pretty cool, actually. It's got a little, it's just got a little gloss and then a little matte texture right there. All right, let's see what we have. Oh, wow. Okay, so I have to kind of do this in stages with my camera. So you can see this picture right here, that guy. I guess it's like a little goblin, kind of a tarot fortune reader, right? He's drawing the cards anyway. And we've got right here. That's pretty cool also. Let's see. This is kind of neat. I like this. So, open with care, no sharp objects. So here is the short version of the card reference guide. We'll get into that. Again, take a look at the artwork on the back. Beautiful. I like the books. Open with care, no sharp objects. So these are the larger cards, and I can tell already that these are lined up and sized correctly. The issue was originally that some of these had poor sizing, that they weren't all just kind of lined up. I don't have the best fingernails. I know it says no sharp objects. Real careful, I promise. I just get right under a corner right there, and boom, there we go. So the first deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so 22, total of 66 cards in total. We'll take a look at these right here. Gold rimmed, nice, gold trimmed. I'm not really sure what the correct. Anyway, we'll take a look. We'll go through all these cards real quickly. So here's the back design. Beautiful. Then we're going to go through each card. We'll pull them like this. So here we go. Let's take a look at these. Take a look at them one at a time. I believe this might be the original deck or closest to it. Anyway, Balance, Comet, Don John. So I know this is one of the original cards that sends you away to, I think, an extra dimensional prison. Uriel. These are beautiful. Fates. The Flames. The Fool. The Gem. The Jester. The Key. The Knight. The Moon. Puzzle, the Rogue, Ruin, Sage, Skull, Star, Sun, Talons, Throne, and Void. Take a look at the next set here. So there was, in original first edition D&D, I don't remember the numbers, but there was basically a percentage that you would get if you found the deck of many things. You had to roll a percentage dice as the DM, and it would either be the smaller version or the larger version. It wasn't this 66 card version. It might have, I have to go back and reread and let you all know. I'm going to do a longer video, and we'll talk a little bit more about using the deck of many things and kind of what all these cards mean, things that you might want to take out, things you might not want to use. Again, these are beautiful, and these are well made. I like them. They are about the size of a normal tarot card, and just that great kind of gold foil edge there. None of the original decks were all the way up to 66 total cards. So anyway, you can use all of them or not use all of them. I guess your DM can choose. There's the Aberration, the Beast, Book, Bridge, Campfire, Cavern. See, I don't know if you can see those, but they've got, there you go, got some glittery elements on there. You got to get the light. There you go, just right. You can see that a little bit. That's pretty cool. Construct. They've all got some little shiny elements or components. Those are the arrows right there. This one has some stars kind of here above the tree, the crossroads. There you go. You got to get the light just right. Door. This has some stuff that shines all over on it. If you got to get the light just, there you go, just right. Dragon. There you go. Dragon. Elemental. This one's got some stuff shining all over it. Got it, yeah. Just, you gotta get it just right. There we go. The Fae. Fiend. Giant. Humanoid. Lance. Mage. Yeah. Map. And maze. A lot of some three-dimensional art there. That's pretty cool. Some shiny elements. There you go. You can see them. All right, the last deck. So one of the things about these cards is that, again, I think they're great for a little bit higher level characters and a campaign where you're in a little bit more of a sandbox, where we're not so kind of time focused or time sensitive. You can always modify the deck and take out some of the cards that are going to completely throw whatever you're doing off course and give them, a major side quest. Somebody gets sent off to an extra dimensional prison. I mean, your party's potentially going to want to spend a lot of time going and looking for them, that sort of thing. Some of these things can be undone in the original version only by a wish. So again, that's going to require a lot of money. Go and find somebody who could cast a wish unless you're a very high level spellcaster. So anyway, that's how I might consider using it. And for a party that is completely up for chaos and much more of a sandbox experience, we're building our own adventure, building our own world as we go. Anything can happen. You can throw something in, and it's going to take them off in a different direction. If you've got a party that's really kind of up for that and doesn't need the rails and the sandbox, and I think this is a great addition. Got Mine, Monstrosity. Gosh, the artwork. The ooze, it's a gelatinous cube there. That is so cool. Path. Again, you can see the other side. The Pit. Oh, those shiny leaves on there. You can see that. Plant. priest, prisoner, ring, shield, ship, staff, stairway, statue, tavern, temple, the tomb. Get some of those. Each of these have these little shiny elements all throughout the card. This one kind of has a ring there. Let's see if we can get it to. Gotta get him. There it goes. Gotta get it just right in the light. The tower, the tree, the undead, warrior, the well. Okay. So 66 cards. Get another look right there. Take a look at this box again that you can keep them in with this little book. Open with care. No sharp objects, right? There we go. A shot of the artwork there. Then we can take a look kind of at this box. Deck of many things. Stuff on the back. Now, take a look at the books here real quick. I'm not going to get into the details. The deck of many things. What is it? Customize your deck. This again talks about the earliest version appearing in 1976, and then later on in 1979. And anyway, each of the cards, they've each got a meaning. You can do, you can combine them together in spreads. It talks about how to do that. For example, the quest, that which is hidden, or the outcome, that which is needed, and the challenge. So start with the quest, the challenge, that which is needed, that which is hidden, and the outcome. And other ways that you can kind of go through this, kind of a divination, sort of an exercise. You can do adventure spreads right here. I haven't done any of these. These are cool. We'll get into all this. I've got a professional tarot reader who I'm going to actually come help me do some of these. Adventure begins, journey, the entrance, challenges right here. Looks like 3 cards. Guardian, a treasure with guardians. And anyway, it goes into exactly how you might do that. Also have the dungeon spread, which is a different kind of a version you can get into. But anyway, gives you some information on how you might read these cards. A person with suggestions regarding personality traits or the situation the person is in. A person can be any kind of humanoid. Anyway, it talks about creatures, traps, people, situations. And typically the way that the deck works is you find the deck somewhere. And this is kind of the typical historical way. And a player then states how many cards they're going to draw. And you have to draw those cards. And there are different rules. I'm not going to get into all of them. You know, some of them you had to draw the cards within a certain period of time because some players would say they're going to draw 5 cards and then really spread that out. It didn't really say kind of when you had to draw them. You can enter, you can put time limits in and all other sorts of things. But let's say we say, I'm going to draw 2 cards. So you draw 1 card, the effect takes place immediately, and then, you know, right after that, you have to draw another card. There are a couple of different ways that you can handle that. Again, we'll go over all the rules of it in a later book. This is not really, or in a later video, that's not really what this is all about. But as you can see, there are a whole number of different ways you can use the cards. But then, so what happens is the card then, after it leaves the deck, unless it's a certain, I guess it's a certain one of the cards, at least that's how it used to be, you draw the card, the effect takes place, and then the card it's destroyed or it disappears and it's gone. And if you don't draw all the cards, then what happens is all of the cards fly from the deck. So let's say you draw 1 card and it has a bad effect. You're like, I'm not going to draw another card. That was too bad. So you don't draw the second card. What's supposed to happen is all the cards fly from the deck and all of the events happen all at once. It's just, I mean, that's going to be campaign ending. It's a huge penalty, really. And I guess what I also didn't mention at the very beginning is that the cards, generally half of them are good and half of them are bad. So you've got about an equal chance of a good or a bad thing happening. So anyway, this book's going to go through each of the cards: balance, aberration, beast, book bridge, campfire cavern, celestial comet, construct corpse, crossroads donjon, Yeah. Underground bars lead to a heavy door made of iron bars. This card represents both imprisonment and freedom. It can be upright or reversed. That's also a tarot thing, right? But the person is a prisoner and feels trapped. In the old version, it was, I believe, an extra-dimensional prison. Anyway, the door, the dragon, the elemental, Uriel. Uriel is a female Medusa with serpentine tail instead of legs, is surrounded by flowers and herbs. A Uriel card points to vision, insight, and observation. Person who observes without becoming involved or attached. The Fates, the Expert, the Fiend. A Balor strikes from the depths of the abyss. This card alludes to an actual fiend or the forces of the lower planes. Usually this means a devil's going to follow you. The Fool, the Flames. The Giant, the Gem. Humanoid, Jester. Key, Knight. Lance, Mage. Map, Maze. Mine, Monstrosity. Moon, Ooze. The Path, the Pit. The Plant, the Priest. The Prisoner, the Puzzle. Anyway, gives you a lot more information on each. Ring, Rogue. Ruin, Sage. Shield, Ship. These are the same images of the cards, right? Obviously, Skull, Staff. Stairway, Star. Statue, Sun. Talons, Tavern. Temple, Throne. Tomb, Tower. Tree, Undead. The Void, the Warrior. And the Well. Cool book. Small, but doesn't matter. It gets the job done. It tells you the basics of how to do the readings and what you can do with it. Okay, we're going to take a few minutes and just do a little more detailed walkthrough of the Book of Many Things. And as you see right here, there are 22 chapters, and each of these chapters essentially goes along with the main cards of the main deck of many things, the 22 cards, right? Or at least the version that's here in this book. And each of these chapters is essentially themed on the deck of many things, on, I guess, the magic effect of the main deck of many things item. Like if you were to select the Fool, essentially what would happen. And so the chapter is themed based upon that. And right here in the Fool, it says that the Book of Many Things, 22 chapters, give you character options, magic items, spells, monsters, and ready-to-play adventures. Ready-to-play is a loose term, I guess, really more so, I guess, sketches of adventures, we could say. So there's a little bit of history on the deck. And then right here, really, this is one of the more useful parts of the book, and it tells you kind of how they've broken it down. So you've got the DM toolbox. There are character creation options over here. So 1 through 5, DM toolbox. 6 through 9, I guess, are character creation options. The Celestial Suite right here, 10 through 13. And these are inspired by astrological phenomena. And then right here, 14 through 18, we've got some adventure locations. And then adversaries and rivals for 19 through 22. And the idea in this chapter is it's showing you essentially how you can tailor the deck, or really kind of how you can use it to inspire your game just beyond using it as an actual magic item. And I'll mention this too, really before I get much further into the deck. We'll talk about the additional cards and where they are located here if you use them as the official magic items for an expanded deck of many more things. But you actually have to use the DM's guide for the official magic item explanation for the first 22 cards of the main deck of many things. My main complaint of the book is I wish they would have included the explanations, the official explanations for the original 1 through 22 cards for the main deck of many things. So normally if you draw the key card, a magic weapon will appear, and the DM's supposed to select that. So anyway, as we get in here, it gives you some more information about how you might use the deck as a narrative, customizing the deck, really just tools for the DM, how you might use the deck in play. It also gives you ideas for the effects of single cards, so you can use some of these cards in addition to the regular magical effects. You can add additional magical effects. I might think that would be too much for players, but anyway, your results may vary. Again, more information on adding to the deck. Normally, when you select balance, you get to increase any of your ability scores by 2 up to a maximum of 22. Normally, without magic, the highest your ability score can go is 20. So this is one of those magic items that brings it above 20. And these are some DM tools here, really how you can kind of fill out your adventures or just give you inspiration as a DM. inspiration hands and talks about doing journey spread. So this could be something you could do as a DM to kind of, especially if you were doing kind of a sandbox thing, you didn't really know which direction you were going, or you needed maybe a short adventure with a little bit of inspiration. You could use a journey spread to kind of guide what you might do on this adventure, give you some ideas. And another way you can use a journey spread is you could have a fortune teller show up for your party and basically give them a spread on their journey and kind of what they may encounter along the way. Now, as a DM, you could do this totally sandbox style, and whatever comes up, that's essentially what you're going to build into the adventure. Of course, you got a lot of creativity in what you can actually build, or you could seed the deck, as it were, and whatever's going to come up it's a little bit more railroady, but whatever's going to come up is what you're going to show to them. You can also use the deck as an encounter deck, right? One of the suggestions, basically random encounters, and there's some ideas there. So normally when you draw the puzzle card, you decrease your intelligence by 2, so a negative card, right? But this chapter has puzzles, riddles, and traps. So I actually think this is pretty cool right here. So anyway, here are some puzzles and riddles, some examples right here. Anything that maybe a big bad might present, some sort of a riddle or some sort of a mystery they're trying to solve. And I actually love traps, physical traps in dungeons. It's great kind of team building and basically team play to solve a big trap that's not just one player involved. And these kind of, I love these isometric maps, the kind of 3-dimensional versions. Those are pretty cool for traps to really help players kind of, I guess, envision what it might look like. So normally with a gem card, you get a bunch of gems, 25 pieces of jewelry worth 2,000 gold pieces each, or 50 gems worth 1,000 gold pieces each appear at your feet, making you instantly wealthy, like winning the lottery. So the way this is used right here, instead of just money falling at your feet, you could get magic items, or you could get magic items in addition to the wealth. And talks about, just like getting the lottery, right? Getting sudden riches, dealing with wealth, how that might affect your players and what they can do in a campaign with getting that sudden wealth. And then it's got these examples of all these kind of unique magic items that could be inspired by the deck, some things that aren't elsewhere within the D&D universe, or I guess aren't officially in canon. All right, so normally when you pick the rogue card, an NPC of the DM's choice becomes an antagonist, or basically becomes one of your enemies. So throughout the book, it talks about several other versions of the deck. In one of the places, it talks about a smaller deck for lower level parties and intermediate level parties. Here's the deck of miscellany, just another version of the deck you could have. There's the deck of wild cards, some more magic items I guess you can add. This section of the book is also supposed to be additional elements for creating characters. So here's some additional stuff related to rogues that you might use just, I guess, as inspiration. And then we get into the NPCs, or the antagonists, right? You've got this ambitious assassin here, the enchanting infiltrator, the otherworldly corrupter. And what else do we have here? The veiled presence. So some NPCs, some bad guys that could just add into the campaign, and basically they're going to be following them around, chasing them around, generally trying to foil their plans. So normally when you draw the Sage card, you are essentially asking about one thing, and you get a truthful answer to that. Essentially going to the Sage or going to the fortune teller, right? So these are specifically items for casters, right? Specifically for arcane magic, arcane knowledge. And there are some additional spells here that you can add. Here are these Sage destinies, things you could use, draw a card, and give you some inspiration, something random you could add to your character. And then here is the official list of the deck of many more things. So again, in the DM's guide, under the magic items, you got the deck of many things, the first 22 cards, and here are the rest of the cards, Aberration, Beast, etc. And then this table shows you everything with an asterisk is from the original deck, or the original 22, and the others add up all the way to 66. The additional 44 cards are the deck of many more things. And if you're using the deck in a more traditional way, and I probably wouldn't suggest, if I were a new DM, I would not suggest using all 66 cards at once. I would go through the deck if I were going to use it in a campaign now and kind of select. There might be some cards I would take out and really look. There are some powerful cards, especially the powerful positive cards and powerful negative cards that can really alter the course of a campaign. And if you're a DM that can go with that, then go ahead, roll with it. But again, just going through all of the various new cards and their, I guess, traditional or normal effects. Also, here's an example of a deck of wonder, another deck you could create from the cards here in the deck of many things, or many more things, as it were. With the Fates card, normally you can erase an event that happened as though it never happened, right? Essentially, kind of like going back in time and erasing one thing, if you could do that. This is going through and giving what it calls rewarded or ruined backgrounds for characters whose lives have been upended by this event of great significance. So anyway, some things that can happen, some features, etc. of characters who are affected. Just giving you some idea for some flavor you could add to your campaign related to this. And then also, going along with this, there could be magic items or supernatural things that could happen related to essentially changing time or changing an event, right? Messing with time. Here are some supernatural gifts you could get, charms. Normally when you draw the Knight card, you get the service of a warrior, right? Who's in your service, right? An ally. And these are really enhancements for characters who live by their skill in combat. So any of your martial classes, some additional items for them. Yeah, so it looks like we've got some magic items, some magic armor, some magical weapons, things to add to those martial classes. Anyway, just some flavor things you could add as a DM. And again, kind of with each of these sections here about developing or adding to characters, these are some things you could add to your character creation, these destinies, if you would like. And then it gets into a little more information about the ally, right? What kind of ally there may be. The deck defender is the one that's mentioned here. Kind of cool. So normally when you draw the Sun card, you get an additional magic item chosen by the DM and 10 temporary hit points. But this right here, what it adds is the Solar Bastion. So there are bastion rules, basically kind of these forts and bases and followers that you can build up in the 2024 version of 5e, and that's what this is here, the Solar Bastion. Some of the occupants, what you do for membership, recruitment, leadership, and a map, what a Solar Bastion would look like. And the Solar Bastion is a benevolent organization that protects the multiverse from the chaos wrought by the deck of many things. Interesting. And I guess your character or NPC could be building a Solar Bastion, I guess, if you're introducing the deck of many things, and it really is kind of game-breaking or world-breaking as it can be. Got a map here, another isometric of the Solar Bastion, and some more ideas about, I guess, equipping or outfitting your Solar Bastion, what they may look like. The Moon card, really powerful. You gain the ability to cast the Wish spell 1 to 3 times. So anyway, you could roll a d6 and use that, 1 to 2 as a 1, etc. But in this case, we're not using it for wishes. This is inspiration for a Thieves Guild of evil lycanthropes, the Moonstalkers Guild. So anyway, you've got the NPCs. They're going to outfit this Thieves Guild, kind of what their guild hall may look like, and a nice map. This is kind of more traditional kind of dungeon or guild hall map. Kind of a cool idea, some lycanthrope thieves or rogues gallery, right? Normally, if you draw the Comet card, the next time you enter combat against one or more hostile creatures, you can select one of them as your foe when you roll initiative. If you reduce the foe to 0 hit points during that combat, you have advantage on death savings throws for 1 year. Anyway, and there's a little bit more, it goes on. But this version here, the Comet, is going to give you, it's basically a cult. This is the cult of the Heralds of the Comet, and gives the DM some ideas on a fairly well fleshed out cult that you could use. Talks about membership, recruitment, leadership, the different NPCs that are going to be a part of the cult, a little cult hideout, and some adventure hooks about what you may tie in for this cult hideout here. Omens of the Apocalypse. They're trying to bring about the Star card, increasing one of your ability scores by 2 up to a maximum of 24. So anyway, another magic item to increase you above 20. So what we have here is essentially using the Star cards as a new zodiac you could introduce to your campaign, flavored by the deck of many things. These are things you would introduce during character creation, that sort of thing. Or you could have a fortune teller show up and kind of pull cards related to their zodiac and tell them about, their omens, etc. And a bunch more information about kind of celestial bodies and observatories. And here you go, an actual observatory you could use if you really wanted to add in kind of the celestial influence in your campaign. Normally, when you draw the Jester card, you get advantage on D20 tests for the next 72 hours, or you can draw 2 additional cards beyond what you initially stated. But this version here gives you the Sealy Market. So this is kind of a Fey marketplace, kind of like the Feywild Carnival, right? The Witchlight Carnival, something that can appear in a particular area, kind of short term. Just something interesting you can add to your campaign. The Sealy Market, kind of this traveling Fey marketplace with locations, NPCs, etc. You can eat a piece of Fey fruit with different magical effects, see some rare birds, a lot of flavor in here, really. That's a great idea or mechanic, really, for the deck to always have fortune tellers. I think it's a great thing to add into any campaign. Got a new monster here, this dragon. Normally, when you draw the Throne card, you gain proficiency and expertise in your choice of history, insight, intimidation, or persuasion. In addition, you gain rightful ownership of a small keep somewhere in the world. However, the keep is currently home to one or more monsters, which must be cleared out before you can claim the keep as yours. And that's essentially the theme here for this chapter is Harrow Hall. It is a keep, right? There you go. It's going to kind of go through the features. It's basically a dungeon, basically a location, a keep. You get this keep, but you have to go in and clear it out first. So there's the plot hook. There's the adventure. You want the keep? You got to go in there and clear it out. Deal with whatever's in there. Some monsters. Small, short adventure. Ruin, one of the worst cards in the deck, right? All forms of wealth you carry your own other than magic items are lost to you. Portable property vanishes. Businesses, buildings, and land you own are lost in a way that alters reality in the least. So normally a terrible card. And this is an adventure location, the madness of Gardmore Abbey. And goes through the history right here. You can explore the ruins, an outdoor map, some of the monsters, NPCs. And this one right here looks much more like the sketch of an adventure. Really kind of a location with a minor dungeon right here that you can deal with, but this would be a pretty short adventure, not exactly fully fleshed out, but something you could throw into one of your campaigns as something if you need a little side quest or something to do, maybe in between major arcs of the story, something like that, where I might use it if it made sense. Donjon, again, one of the worst cards in the game. You disappear and become entombed in a state of suspended animation in an extra-dimensional sphere. Terrible. And this is essentially another donjon. Right here where you have this extra-dimensional sphere, here it is, an isometric map, and then it basically tells how you might actually incorporate this, how you would run the sphere, what happens when you split the party. Just gives you some ideas on how you might actually do this other than you got to split this off and create your own adventure. And essentially what this book is doing is expanding or giving you ideas on how you might flesh out those things that are one or two sentences or a paragraph in the DM's guide. Normally you'd have to go off and create your own content for that, and this is kind of creating some of that for you or adding in elements you can use and sketch off of. There's the sphere, there's a map of the sphere, all the locations. This is probably one of the more kind of fleshed out little dungeons here that they have. Going all the way up through 33, it looks like rooms. Void, your soul is drawn from your body and contained in an object in a place of the DM's choice. One or more powerful beings guard this place. While your soul is trapped in this way, your body is inert, ceases aging, requires no food or air or water. A wish spell can't return your soul to your body, etc. The Void's giving the adventure location or how you might deal with the Void, right? And again, this is more of a sketch of an adventure you might use to deal with that. And there's kind of that, again, that extra dimensional space. And I guess this is kind of the place or the dungeon you would have to deal with to go retrieve your soul. And in these kind of places in the cards where your character is essentially taken away or held prisoner or something like that, you can always run a temporary character. And that's one way to deal with it and be part of the party's actions to retrieve your character and bring them back to the adventure. There you go. Some more items. Again, how many do we have there? We're up to 23 kind of rooms, I guess, in that dungeon or adventure location. And there we have one more, a new monster, I guess, the Breath Drinker. Ooh. The Skull. Normally when you draw this card, the Avatar of Death appears. It appears in an unoccupied space as close to you as possible. The avatar targets only you with its attacks, appearing as a ghostly skeleton clad in tattered black robe and carrying a spectral scythe. And there are additional details that go along with the card, normally. And this details essentially the Grim Harrow, which are this legion of undead, and their sole purpose is to go and find and destroy the deck of many things. A little bit similar to Lord of the Rings, I guess, right? Just something you could add if your characters really were pretty powerful at this point, using a full deck or something like that, then you could maybe have this whole Grim Harrow chasing after them and showing up at various points to track down and destroy the deck of many things. Little adventure hooks, some stuff you could add in related to this whole Grim Harrow kind of adventure hook, or I guess plot point you could add into your adventure. Flames, a powerful devil shows up, right? If you draw this card, the devil seeks your ruin and torments you, savoring your suffering before attempting to slay you. The enmity lasts until either you or the devil dies. Blah. So these are 3 new devils, or I guess kind of statted out interesting devils you could add as this fiend that's chasing after you. I'm not sure how you pronounce this. Arnoxy, the Caged Worm. It'd be nice if they told you how to pronounce it in here. It does not. So there's Arnoxy, that fiend, that devil. Then you've got a stat block for Arnoxy. And then it looks like we've got Holgaz, the Tempter, another fiend, right? Kind of looks like a succubus to me. I love this kind of demonic or fiendish art of being down in the, I guess this would be in the 9 hells. And then we've got Melaxis, Melaxix, kind of reminds me of X-Lax. Melaxix the Shackler. Then we have Talons. Every magic item you wear or carry disintegrates. Artifacts in your possession vanish. Ugh, another one of the terrible ones, taking a bunch of stuff from you. And these are monsters inspired by the deck of many things. A bunch of different stat blocks you can add. Flavored. Got a whole bunch of different ones here. Hierophant, Medusa, the Living Portent, the Riffler, a Ruined Spider, a Talon Beast, Were Vulture. Uriel's one of the cards that's been in there since the very beginning. Normally, if you select Uriel, the card's Medusa-like visage curses you. You take a -2 penalty on savings throws. While cursed in this way, only a god of the magic of the Fates card can end this curse. And this is essentially another kind of adventure hook, and this would be an adventure dealing with the Medusa, right? There we've got some NPCs, some monsters, some plot hooks, the princess and the gardener. Anyway, there you got some stat blocks and an adventure location. And this one here is a bit more of a sketch of an adventure or an idea you could use if you needed to deal with a Medusa. So there you go, quick look through all 22 chapters, nothing really too much in detail. They're flavored for the original cards, you get the idea, and they're really trying to help a dungeon master flesh out what you might do with each of these cards versus having to homebrew or come up with everything just kind of rules as written. And I think some of these ideas and some of these adventures are better than others. There really is a lot of content in here. And what I'll probably do as a DM is pick a few things from there, here and there, to add a little flavor, a little something extra, a little twist or turn to my campaign. There's no way I'm going to try to incorporate a whole bunch of this stuff to any one campaign. It's just too much. But there are a lot of really interesting, novel, kind of unique ideas in here. Love the books. Love the options. You can play this thing kind of in the original way if you would like to. There's the option to do that. Or if you don't want to play it in the original way, you've got the options. So many options for all these spreads to essentially use it kind of like a fortune-telling kind of a mechanic, a way where it kind of decides what's going to happen in your adventure, some unpredicted things. So I would say it's kind of like, back in the day, what they had was this idea of random dungeon generation. It was something Gary Gygax had. It was in the original Dungeon Master's Guide, and just you could roll on these tables. You didn't really even need to prepare, he would argue, as long as you knew the rules. You just roll on these tables. Here's the room, here's the monsters, here's the treasure, here's the deal. And this isn't quite to that level, but everybody's familiar with wandering monster tables or, random encounter tables and all those sorts of things. This could be kind of used along those lines. You want to throw in some spice. Characters are getting kind of bored. Maybe they're getting, maybe their egos are getting a little bit too big. Time to maybe break out the deck. Or maybe you're just going to plan to use it throughout your campaign. Maybe there's a fortune teller. Maybe there's a seer, right? Maybe there's some divination stuff going on. And this is going to pop up throughout and kind of, line up some things that are going to happen that you don't decide to advance. You could definitely edit the deck and only include the cards that you're willing for your players to use. But still, there's some chance that the players have some agency in what they get to pick and what they get to do. One of the cool things you can do with the deck also, and kind of how it is originally designed, is you've got these cards, right? And the players can just hold on to this thing, and when they get bored, or when they want some chaos, or when they want, they're willing to just literally roll the dice, pick a card, and that is what's going to happen. Absolutely amazing, right? But let them kind of determine when they want that chaos, when they want that change in their adventure. And there are a ton of different ways to kind of introduce it and use it. One of the simple ways is you pick and choose the cards you want them to use as a DM. They have a predefined deck. They come across this deck some way. They're given the rules, and it's kind of the original way. They determine how many cards they're going to draw, they draw them, and the effects take place. You could also add other rules in there. Again, it's your campaign. There isn't one way to do this. And I think this book does an excellent thing. Rules is written, but there are rules as written in how you can use a deck of many things. But the deck of many things, the book of many things, it introduces about as many different ways to use a fairly traditional, though very powerful magic item that is just a deep part of D&D lore. It just shows you all these different ways you can use it and add it to your campaign. Highly suggest it, especially now that the price has come down a little bit after it was introduced and they had some of their they had some early issues with quality control. The size of the cards wasn't 100% correct, but I think this is just excellent. Excellent quality, excellent material. One of the favorite things, actually, I've seen released as a supplement for all of Dungeons & Dragons. Anyway, if it's part of your budget, if it's something you think sounds like a good idea, I highly encourage you to go out and get it. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Art of Character. If you've made it this far, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing, or click below and join our Patreon or our Discord. You can also click below and get something from our merch store. Until next time.